What unethical experiment do you think would be interesting if conducted? Breed giant-sized or mini-humans intentionally over generations to see how big or small humans can become. Edit guys, it says unethical, therefore living to a ripe old age in great health wouldn't exactly be necessary for the experiment. Clone a known serial killer. Make let's say 24 or so. Intentionally raise them in a variety of environments including the one they were raised in. Track how many if any become killers. Testing the nature versus nurture argument. Raising a child in a completely 1960s themed atmosphere and then abruptly exposing them to the modern world when they are between the ages of 15 and 18. Selectively breed apes for intelligence to produce another sapient species. Edit replaced sentient with sapient after getting my definitions updated. Learn something new every day. We've cloned a sheep. Time to clone a human. I feel like this was probably done behind closed doors already. Brain head transplants. There were some really interesting experiments back in the day involving them. One in the 1970s involved a monkey receiving a head transplant that lived over a week. In fact, they were so interesting and stopped so suddenly it has me somewhat suspicious. Allow a woman to become pregnant and have a child in zero gravity and allow them to develop there. Perhaps several generations. I wonder what the actual changes would be, both in the womb and early, but also generationally. Clone some average person 10,000 times. Keep each clone in a clean environment their entire lives and feed each one a different type of food. See which ones get cancer or Alzheimer's, etc. just to try and zero in on those diseases. Raise an entire village of people who believe Star Wars is real. Raise them under, let's say, imperial occupation. Hell, we could even stage a murder of a supposed rebel by Darth Vader. And then suddenly when everyone turns 21, reveal the truth to them. All this stuff about forbidding doping and steroids. What if we take any professional sport, and just say go nuts, take it all, backed by actual doctors and scientists, paid by big money. Let's see how many absurd ways we can push the human body. What can it really do, when pushed to the extreme? Cycling or MMA would be preferred. Gather a group of varied children from different races and places from around the world. Raise and educate them with absolutely no sense of history, nationality, or religion. Purely secular education. Then study to see what prejudices they manage to come up with on their own. Train a gorilla using modern fitness and diet schemes and see what a super gorilla is capable of. What happens if someone has goggles fitted from birth that only allow things to be seen in black and white and the googles are removed at age 25? How many duck-sized horses would it take to beat a horse-sized duck? Brain experiments on living humans. We don't do it for ethical reasons, but it would help move things forward much faster. The Olympics, but athletes have free access to all performance-enhancing drugs and biotechnology possible, no restrictions. See how low the 100-meter record can go, how far a javelin can be thrown. What if we bring back the Colosseum? There's so much vitriol and hate for the other side. How about everyone who wants to fight meets up, hand to hand only, we televise it to raise money for a good cause, let everyone hash it out. And then the world becomes a lot more peaceful. Create a not social media site where people who like to think they are really smart go and talk out of their asses. Introducing reasonable amounts of alcohol into NASCAR. Take away a billionaire's money and see if they can raise themselves up by their own bootstraps. Do corrupt politicians feel pain? CEO and his lowest paid staff swaps lives for a year. Out of womb gestation, either for people that can't conceive naturally or for organs harvesting like someone's clone, but make the fetus brainless. Infinite spare parts plus some parents could have the pleasure of seeing their baby forming real time. Build a massive open-air habitat and put a ton of newborn babies in there. Then, they use very subtle methods of supervising and protecting them while providing no human contact whatsoever. Hopefully, this ensures the babies are completely feral by the time they are children. Once they are grown enough to take care of themselves, we can sit back and watch as they slowly reform into something resembling a civilization. What if we just pump the food and water supply a population ingested with drugs and hormones to make them more docile and easier to control? Separating twins at birth. That actually has been done deliberately a couple of times. Mouse utopia experiment, but on humans. Obviously it would need to be modified, and yeah, perhaps some reality shows have in a way done this experiment, but not in the view of science and not long term. The trolley problem. I predict most people would actually be paralyzed with uncertainty. Giving humans extra limbs and seeing how their brains respond to it. Stick a person in an airtight room with an increasing number of plants to find out the number needed to maintain a sustainable oxygen level. Stop testing products meant for human use and consumption on animals and start testing them on humans, like rapists, pederasts, and murderers. A psych professor in university defended animal testing one day in front of our class, talking about the humane ways in which the lab animals were always treated, to minimize suffering and pain. So fine, some company wants to know how their spray chemicals will affect people who might use it, then put a couple of convicted killers in a big tank and fill it with whatever chemicals the company envisions people using one day, and let's see what happens. Take a few dozen male children at birth, isolate them from society insofar as is practicable, and see if they develop the nod. Put all the people with the same political, religious, whatever life views in the same country where they can run it the way they want things to be, and see which societies do best and how things turn out. Would be very interested to see the crime rates, death rates, poverty rates, quality of life, corruption, etc. If you fired Putin at the correct speed at a speeding train, could you stop the locomotive dead in its tracks? Raise a group of children in a typical Western setting, or as much as is possible, but without any knowledge of religion. Then when they're adults, introduce them to all the world's religions in a job fair type setting and see if they feel the need to join any of them. Whether exposing keyboard warriors with a radical opinion online to real war on the ground changes their opinion. I strongly need to preface this with I do not support this at all. I am just curious what the results would be. Forced detoxification. Now, before people say that is what prisons do, I'm not talking about prisons. When a junkie is arrested and they are found to be on a substance, they are sent to an actual detox facility where they will do it correctly. Just in this case against the patient's will. It's highly unethical, and I do not actually want people to do this. I would just be very interested to see the results of whether this actually works or not. Eugenics. Try to breed different kinds of humans. Make some soldiers, some geniuses, some just basic worker drones. Maybe some 12-foot-tall basketball players, that kind of thing. My husband tells me about this one he came up with from time to time. You get a baby as soon as it's born and put weights all over its body. Like a weighted vest, weights around the arms, legs, etc. Once they're able to freely move without resistance, you up the weight higher and keep repeating this process until they're about 18-25 years old. Then once they reach that age, you take the weights off. Essentially, it would be to see if the person can run faster, jump higher, and have unreasonable strength. Unit 731 asked this question, and boy howdy, did they answer too many. Make influencers watch their own videos for 24 hours straight. Give a round of ketamine infusions to everyone that walks into a liquor store and see how many stop coming for a month because they are no longer depressed. Bring back Neanderthals by selective breeding. Was done all rat cattle. Utterly unethical, but a genetic hybrid of human and ape would probably have interesting results. Human and dolphin as well. Raise humans to mostly swim around a pool of water since birth. See how that affects their genetics across the generations. Go in the ocean deep in and prick your finger underwater and record the estimated time for a shark to show up. In general, it would be nice to just send families with bad relationships to a therapist forcibly, as is often the case in American schools when children are sent to a psychologist. I think that it would be useful for parents to go to him for therapy.